Hello.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
I don't know if we have anyone yet. How are you doing?
We have all of three so far. We're rock
Hey,
and roll.
three. Hey, that's somebody. Hello out there. Hello, you three. Welcome to our live
Yeah,
stream. Excited to
welcome,
have you.
welcome. Yeah, boy, we've got a fun topic going on
We
today.
sure do. Yeah, I'm excited about this one. This one's going to be really cool. But
Yeah, I was
well,
trying to explain it to Brad, and he was like, "No, say it. How do you do
just,
this?"
just the title of it sounds a little convoluted, but when you get in and
Um,
break it down, it's a pretty
yeah,
cool setup. It's a pretty cool concept.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty awesome. You guys are probably like, "Okay, what is she going to talk about?"
So what is it? Let's uh let's get into it. Let's go ahead
All
and go.
right.
Let's tell the people what we're doing. First, some introductions. I am Jason Fernandez, the live sound trade specialist with QSC. I handle a lot of the majority of the live sound training topics, things like that. And joining me is Golden Preciado. She is a recording and front of house mixing engineer professional, and she works a lot in the house of worship sector. So very happy to have her on today. And this topic was actually her idea, and it's a super cool, kind of tricky way of mixing a broadcast mix is what we're talking about. So what the topic is, and then I'll hand it over to you, Golden, is
Okay.
how to remote mix a broadcast mix. So what is that? There's so many words in there. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like Jason said, we're talking about live remote broadcast mixing and how can we actually make that a reality? And we'll be using our TouchMix 30 Pro to accomplish it. And some of you are hearing the words live remote broadcast mixing and you're thinking, what exactly do you mean by that?
Huh?
Yeah.
Let's break that
Well,
down a little bit
live.
and then get
Yeah,
into
yeah.
it.
Live is meaning you're mixing an event at the time of the event it's happening. And in our case, the input signals are coming from the front of house console. That's the live part. Remote means you're not actually at the event, but mixing from somewhere else, like say
You're not
your
there.
home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're talking about the broadcast mix. So broadcast mixing obviously refers to a discrete mix that is most likely being sent to a live stream, which is what's going to be happening in our example here in this case. So I know you guys are thinking, is this like even a thing? And I'm here to tell you it really is a thing, and there's people out there doing it. So I wanted to cover it. It's become popular during the pandemic as people have, it became a popular concept as I saw in posts from my church media face groups that I'm a part of, and people asking, well, is it possible to mix remotely so that I can remain social distanced?
So the
And
whole
working from
operation is all distance and remote.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah. And what I'm about to tell you is a solution that a number of church media users posted that they were doing. And it totally intrigued me. So I ran tests and it actually worked. And as I tested the solution, I discovered some pros and some cons. And as I go, I'll mention some of the pros and cons.
Totally.
But first, I am going to show you a big picture of how this is all working. And then I'm going to break it down step by step, how to hook it all up and make it happen.
Very good.
So,
all right. So big picture. Let's have it.
Okay. So it looks like it dropped my screen share. So let me get my screen share going up again here.
Technical difficulties.
Oh, hold on. I'm almost there, guys.
That's all right.
There's my screen.
There we are.
Okay. So I mix quite a bit at a venue called Campus Jacks in Newport Beach, California. And in order to do my test, I used multi-tracks from one of the bands that I mixed. They're called Family Style. And it's a band of a bunch of brothers. And they've been together for 30 years as a band, and they have this excellent local following. They're sweet guys and excellent, excellent musicians. So that's this band here. And this right here, let me get back into my window so I can switch it. This right here is what my front of house setup, my test front of house setup looks like. And what you're seeing here is my band, the meters on my TouchMix family style, the instruments running into the TouchMix.
Okay.
And then you see the computer next to it. And the TouchMix is actually sending the individual signals over to my computer where I'm running a broadcast mix. So here's what's happening over here. All incoming and outgoing signals are happening at the local level on site. Okay. So here's my front of house mixer with signal coming into the channels from the band, and I'm feeding those channels to Logic, where I'm running a discrete broadcast mix.
All right.
And then that stereo channel from Logic is being fed back into the TouchMix and then being sent out to the person who is running the live stream.
Okay.
So that, yeah.
so just a little recap on that. So we've got your musicians on stage. All of their input is going into our mixer. And then we have the digital signal per channel, delivering all of those signals into the DAW, in this case, Logic.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be Logic, though. It could be any DAW.
It could be Pro Tools. It could be Reaper, Ableton.
Yeah,
any
DAW.
of them.
Any DAW will do. So we've got our DAW going, and they're receiving our signal, and that is a straight from the preamp dry signal of each of those channels being delivered into our DAW. We're then, and we're going to, I'm sure you're going to break down, the process of how to do this and all the routing. But then, just for the big picture, we're returning all of those signals back to the mixer for the purposes of a broadcast mix. And then all of the control that your picture at the top there is your engineer who is controlling the Logic session in this case, or the DAW session.
Actually, that person up at the top is the live stream guy.
Oh, that's the live stream guy. So he's
the signal is being sent to the person who's streaming.
Okay, so we're not talking about the control yet.
Oh yeah, I haven't got there, but this is me at the remote control right there.
We are. Okay.
This is the remote control part. This is the part that takes place offsite. And I could be mixing from my home here while the band is mixing at Campus Jack. So this is me at home. And I am receiving my high fidelity audio. It's being streamed to me via a third-party application called Audio Movers. And it's a plugin that is attached to my DAW.
I'm going
to break that down. And then I'm using, they're using a Google Desktop Remote to allow me to control their screen from my computer. So basically, I'm running broadcast mix by remote control.
That's wild.
Basically what's happening there.
We are in the future.
We are in the future. And I know it seems like a lot, but there are churches out there doing this right now. And I have plans for the time that I can't be there at Campus Jacks to be able to run a remote broadcast mix. So
that's a cool option.
Yeah. So let's get our TouchMix. Let's set up our TouchMix and get it connected to our DAW.
How do we do this?
First thing is we got to plug our computer into the TouchMix. And you can see we got that USB DAW connection that we'll be using that goes into our computer. And then we need to press the play record button on our TouchMix. And when we do that, it brings us to this window. Now, the TouchMix automatically defaults to hard drive recording, and that is not the mode we want to be in. So we are going to press this record mode button right here, and it's going to ask us if we want to be multi-track drive or multi-track DAW, and we need to choose multi-track DAW, which brings us to this window. That is what it will look like.
Okay.
And right here, you'll note where the red box is, the sample rate that my mixer is set to. And that's an important number because whatever DAW that you're using, you need that to match. You need to match the sample. In this case, it's 44.1, and we matched it up in my DAW to 44.1. And just in case you guys forgot about the home button, I just had to tell you put that one in there. That brings you back to your mix window, your main mix window.
Good old friend, the home button.
Yeah, I gotta love it. Okay, so now into setting up Logic, which is the DAW I'm using. Now, this is interesting. My DAW, in this case, Logic, is a completely discrete mix from the TouchMix from front of house. The pickoff point for the signal being fed into Logic is coming straight off the TouchMix preamps. So this means that there is zero processing on those audio signals going into Logic or whatever DAW that you're using. Now, I've built this Logic session here for this band, and it looks and it functions just like a mixing console. I have it, to be just like a live mixing console. And all the broadcast mixing is taking place in my DAW.
Okay.
So that's the gist of that. And FYI, this method of mixing for broadcast inside of a DAW, it's fast becoming a popular way to produce a broadcast mix in the House of Worship arena.
I can imagine.
So, yeah. The reason being that using your DAW allows total control over every aspect of the mix, including EQ, dynamics, effects, and so on. And you can really craft the mix to be exactly what you need it to be. No matter what the room is like or no matter how bad the house mix is, you can make the broadcast mix sound spectacular. So
awesome.
It's pretty cool. Now, the problem is many House of Worship operators will be volunteers and they don't know enough about their DAWs to set it up properly.
Okay.
So there are third parties out there that have created these awesome DAW templates.
Oh,
and they're like mixing consoles ready to go. And all the church operator has to do is hook it up and adjust the faders.
That's it.
And yeah, one of the DAW templates for House of Worship that I've sampled and I really like is one from worshiptech.live. And I have a link that I want to put in the comments here. So hopefully you guys,
while you're putting that in there, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, we're talking about the DAW right now, but I just want to kind of reiterate, at the end of this chain, the person that's operating this, you in this case, when you're at home, you are not operating a mixer. You're not operating a TouchMix. You're at home essentially operating this. You're operating the DAW from your computer at home, and we'll get into that. But that's the really wild part of this. Yes, and
the TouchMix is sending to the DAW the individual instrument channels.
Yeah.
So this way, what you can have is a front of house person running front of house,
right,
and monitor person doing monitors, and they don't have to worry anything about the broadcast mix.
That's
they can let the broadcast mix
by the DAW. So the DAW is handling that broadcast mix that's still coming out of the mixer. But then that frees up the mixer and the people that are there locally to handle the actual room mix and the monitor mixers or whatever is happening there, and someone else is taking charge of the broadcast mix, which anybody who is tuning in online will hear that.
Yeah. So. Yep. Okay, so moving on, there's a few things that we have to set up in Logic to make sure that our mix is working. So in this picture, I'm showing you how to get to the audio preferences. Under Logic Pro X window, go to Preferences and then Audio. And this is the magic window that we want to be looking at. Our device window. We need to make sure that QSC TouchMix 30 Pro is selected as our device for both the output and the input.
Going both ways.
Yep. And once you've done that, the other thing you'll want to note is the latency for the round trip that it takes for the signal to go into the DAW through all the effects and all the processing, come back out the computer and then back into the DAW. And in this case, in this session, there was about 12 milliseconds, which is, not too bad considering all that was done in the music and all the processing that was done. Now, when it goes to the live stream, it's up to the person running to the live stream if they want to sync it absolutely perfectly. It's up to the live stream operator to sync the audio with the
Sure. Yeah.
picture.
We're
At
only
12
handling the
milliseconds
audio
isn't too bad.
mix. No, that's not too
Yeah.
bad at all.
Not at all. Yeah. And the other thing we want to do is go to our IO assignments, and the output of the stereo mix needs to be set to 31 and 32. And that's going to allow the signal to be returned to our TouchMix playback channel.
There it is.
And it doesn't actually say 31 and 32. This is why I wanted to actually talk about this. The playback channel on TouchMix is channels 31 and 32. And what I've done in this session here, I've created a totally separate stereo broadcast send. And when I'm on site and I'm running sound on site, I'll run everything from the auxiliary mix. In this situation, when I'm running from the DAW, I go mute all the other channels in that auxiliary mix, except for the playback that I'm getting from the DAW.
Very good.
So, yeah.
So we're listening to that channel in that aux and only that channel, and that channel is basically the output from the DAW. So the mix that the DAW is running is now being fed and heard through the 2-track playback channel on the mixer. And it's just to clarify this, the 2-track playback channel on the mixer is related to the 2-track recording function. So there is a 2-track record bus on the TouchMix that allows you to just record a stereo recording of the main mix or an aux mix. And then the way you would listen to that back, if you wanted to, would be through this 2-track playback channel. Now, in this case, we are using that to now listen to the DAW session instead of the onboard 2-track recording on the mixer. So,
right,
pretty cool additional use of that channel. Yeah,
and I was pleasantly surprised to see that playback channel could be pushed into all the auxiliaries. The TouchMix is such a versatile mixer.
Yes,
everyone needs one.
It's deep. Another thing while we're here, another thing just to mention is, we want this channel to be heard in the broadcast mix. You probably don't want this channel up in the main mix.
Exactly.
We're using this for a very specific purpose. The main mix is something else entirely. You want to make sure that fader is down or the channel is muted within the main mix. So we're not getting that there. You're going to get a feedback loop if you do that.
Yep, exactly. Good point. Okay, so now we're going to talk about input assignments. So what needs to happen is that the channels on the mixer need to match up to the channels on the DAW. For example, if my kick drum is channel 1, I need the mixer and the DAW to say channel 1. So I'm going to play this video here. You can see I go to the input mode and I choose input 1 for the kick, and you'll see the meter start to go because that is channel 1. Now, channel 2 on my mixer is snare. So I will choose channel 2 there. Rack tom is 4 on my mixer, but I need to make sure that says 4 there in the DAW. The mid tom here is not being used, and you need to make sure it says no input. You don't want to feed source in something that's not being used. And the floor tom is channel 6 on the mixer, so we assigned it there. And our hat is channel 3 on my mixer, so I made sure my hat lined up there. My left overhead is channel 7. And there we go. We're lined up there. That meter's going. And my input channel for my right overhead is 8. And now you can see
there you go.
Meter's going in the DAW. I am hooked up and in business. So you need to hook up so you're looking back and forth to the mixer to see what channel stuff are on, and you're matching them up to whatever it is in your DAW template. The order of my DAW template is not always going to be the exact order of the TouchMix. So that's why it's so important to be looking at the channels in the TouchMix and make sure you get them matched up correctly. Okay, moving on to the next screen, input monitoring. This mode, if you look where I have my red square there, and you can see the little eye that's orange. It needs to
Mhm.
be that's input monitoring mode. And in
Okay.
order to hear what's coming out of the stereo signal and going back into the mixer, that needs to be switched on. So for each input channel. And what I've done, and you can read the manufacturer instructions for your DAW, but I've created a group, and I called the group Go Live, because when I
There it
press the
is.
input monitoring, everything becomes live.
There it is.
So
Pretty
I
on the
just,
nose.
yeah, when I press the little eye, the orange eye down there, they just all go live. So that's how I
Awesome.
was able to accomplish that. And now we're going to talk about giving control to the remote broadcast mixer. And this is the person that is offsite. The person who's on site had to hook up the channels to the DAW and get it all prepared.
So
The
yeah, so
person
everything we've seen so far is on site. Somebody
on site,
at the
yes,
event has handled all of that part of it. They've connected all the channels, they've set up the DAW, and everything is ready to go.
yes, exactly. Yeah. So now we're going to give remote control to the person who's not at the event, but mixing the broadcast mix. So what the broadcast mixer needs is high fidelity audio. And there is a plugin from Audio Movers that allows any DAW to transmit this high fidelity audio. And what I want to do really quick before I get too far into this is send that link over to you guys. So
Yeah, this is a fantastic plugin that allows you to stream and maintain high fidelity audio over
yes,
a web browser.
a lot of session people use this to communicate with people from remote areas as they're working through sessions. So, and this works
Remote mixing
great in this
sessions,
application.
remote recording sessions. It's a great app. It's a great little plugin for these specific kinds of applications.
Yeah. So the way this works is you'll download the plugin and install it into your DAW. And what we're going to do is add the plugin to your stereo mix. Where that arrow is the plugin I added. The plugin is called Listen To. That's what's transmitting. So you'll want to add the Listen To plugin to the stereo mix. When you click on the Listen To plugin, it brings up this screen where you'll type in your information, which look whose account that is.
Hey, who's that guy?
Yeah, thanks for letting me use yours, Jason.
Absolutely.
This is a subscription. So yeah, and you can transmit up to 40 people, up to, I think it was 40.
Streams. Yeah.
Yeah, 40 streams of high fidelity audio from this. So it's awesome. So you'll log in first, then you'll copy the stream, and then you'll email the stream to whoever is going to be receiving the audio. So let's say I'm the remote broadcast mixer. I would be receiving that email, and then the person at local would press start streaming. So when I click the link, when I get the link and click it, this page comes up, and I'm going to click the start listening button. And then I know it's working and I'm receiving audio because I'm going to see the faders bouncing around for Audio Movers, and I'm going to hear my broadcast audio. And then I can start mixing based on that audio reference.
Yes.
The latency between what's being sent is pretty low for what it is. I was quite impressed.
You do have some control over the latency in the plugin, and it'll allow you to set it to as low as 0.5 milliseconds. So
yeah,
extremely
I actually
low.
turned mine down to 0.5 and it was fine.
Yeah.
But if you notice little dropouts, you might want to turn it up just a little bit.
Bump it up, yeah, if your network
allow
can't
more
quite
buffer
handle it.
time. But it depends on how awesome your internet is. So yeah, you do want to have good internet for this. Okay, so now moving on.
You know what? Speaking of latency, actually, we did have a question that came up a few minutes ago. This might be a good time to talk about it.
Alrighty.
So Sean from YouTube is asking, so in theory, this sounds good. How do we deal with the latency? So we just discussed kind of the audio latency here coming back to the mix engineer from the broadcast. Could be as low as 0.5, which is incredibly negligible. But earlier when we were looking at the DAW turnaround time, and then we're also going to have to consider the actual control time, which we're going to get into. What can you say about that? And I know there are a few statements you wanted to make.
audio latency, like when in my session that I was working from here, was 12 milliseconds for a
That's what I'm
round
talking
trip
about. Yeah.
back into the mixer. It's up to the person who's running the live stream to sync that back up. And you can do that in OBS, in a lot of these broadcasting softwares. It's pretty easy to realign audio latency to video.
Yeah.
So that's up to the person who's running the live stream to do that. What was the other question, Jason?
That was the
Well, the
majority
other
of the question
point
was
of
kind of how do
latency
you
is
deal
would
with
be
latency?
the other point of latency would come with running the screen. And
Yes.
really quick, let me show you about running the screen.
Yeah, let's get into that.
When I was running my test and running this broadcast mix, I was using Chrome Remote Desktop or Google Chrome Remote Desktop. It's pretty fast for what it is. It is really fast. But is there latency? Absolutely. If you're an IT guy and you work on other people's computers, you have experienced the latency. There's a bit. So when you move a fader, you'll have to wait, 15 milliseconds for it to respond.
Sure.
So I would say if you're doing a mission critical event for broadcast TV, maybe this is not the way to do it. You're going to probably want to think of something different.
Yeah.
But for House of Worship and how this is being used in House of Worship, it's a bit more passive mixing. The few milliseconds of latency to control the mixer in the remote location has not, it hasn't seemed to have bothered people too much. So what happens is when you add the extension, Google Remote Desktop is free. It's just part of Google Chrome, and you can add the extension to your, see where this little arrow is here? That's the extension. It looks like a little puzzle piece.
A puzzle piece, yeah.
Yeah. So the person who's going to share their screen is going to generate a code. So that'll be the person at the event site. And then they'll email it or text it to the person at the remote site. The person at the remote site is going to use this bottom window on their screen to connect to their computer. To connect to their desktop. So hopefully that's making sense there.
Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You're sharing the screen locally to somebody off site, and so that person is going to connect into your local computer via a remote connection. So now somebody using a different computer at a different location is controlling your computer at the event. It's essentially what's happening.
Yes. Now the remote person will be controlling the local computer within their browser. So the remote mixer is working with the mixing person is working with two browser tabs, Audio Movers for our high fidelity audio, and Google Desktop Remote in the second tab for their screen sharing. So basically that's what's happening. And I ran it and it worked. I was like, okay, this is cool. And people in the House of Worship are making this work. The broadcast engineer does not have to be on site, and they're able to return an amazing mix. I actually ran a sample video of me doing a remote mix. The video is going to show me mixing remotely, so I'm away from the front of house mix. Now remember, the audio is actually coming from the site. So you'll be listening to audio that's generated from the local computer on site. So Brad, go ahead and hit that video. You can hear what happened with my DAW mix, my DAW broadcast mix for my family style band.
Oh, let's take them on that jungle cruise now. Tear the roof off the mother sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the whole idea there. And we can take away my screen. How do I get rid of that? Yeah. And that's the idea of remote broadcast mixing with a DAW connected to our TouchMix 30 Pro.
Totally.
pretty cool use of technology.
Pretty cool. So a couple questions I want to pose to you. First, in the video there, you did have a TouchMix setup next to your laptop. Was that just for the purposes of running sound from your laptop out to your desktop monitors there? Or is that kind of like your interface more or less?
If I were to do this, some people can do this in headphones. I prefer to actually mix with studio monitors. What you saw in the video was my studio.
Yeah.
So that TouchMix is related to my studio, but it was not connected to the front of house mixer. I was only running my audio through it.
Yep, that's what I was figuring. I just wanted to clarify because it was
good thing.
Very cool. So something else. Again, just kind of some clarification on how things are running. So what we're dealing with on your end of it is in terms of a broadcast mix is we are mixing 100% within a DAW. We're only receiving the audio out of the mixer. So, let's say there are things happening on the mixer. People are adding EQ, compression, effects, and things like that to other mixes on the mixer itself.
Yes.
We're not getting any of that in the DAW. We're just getting our raw audio straight from the preamps, bypassing all of the processing that is actually on board on the mixer, and we're getting all of that stuff dry in Logic or in the DAW. And then so the DAW is providing any and all processing. And then all we're doing is
DAW as a second mixing console.
Here you go. Second mixing console. And we're just kind of looping it back to, a stereo channel on the mixer itself for the purposes of outputting it to the actual broadcast stream.
Yes.
So all of the processing is happening in the DAW in this instance.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. That is some tricky stuff.
Yeah, but it works, and people are doing it out there. So
Awesome.
When the time comes that I can't be there at Campus Jacks to mix, and they need a high fidelity sounding broadcast mix, this is the way I'm going to accomplish that.
You can do it, and just anybody else could too. It's a great. It's in like as you said, in applications kind of like House of Worship, where it's a more of a passive kind of mixing application. This could be more of a standard thing, but you can also, as a regular engineer, you could keep this in your back pocket. If you're normally a front of house mixer somewhere, or if you have regular gigs places and something comes up and you just can't physically be there one time, instead of canceling, you just be like, you know what, I got this. I'm going to sit at my studio at home or wherever, and I'm going to remote in, and it's going to be fine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Very cool. Man, what a topic. Thanks for taking
a lot of information in there, I know, but
it is. Yeah, we crammed a lot in about 30 minutes here. We're trying to keep it moving. But very cool. I think that was some cool information to get out there, and hopefully that was informative and useful to everybody out there that's hanging out with us right now. It seems, when you first kind of think about it, it seems pretty complicated, but as you step through it, it's really not. It's just about kind of routing and just kind of getting over mentally the oddity of not physically being there.
It is really it's different. And people were not doing it this way before COVID. This is something that
I'd never heard of it before.
This became popular during the pandemic. So, it is interesting. It's a great, very, very low cost solution.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
And it works.
And it works. That's the best part. Yeah. If it didn't work, we wouldn't tell you about it.
Right. It's no different than doing a recording session with your, when you hook up to the TouchMix on a DAW, it's no different than doing a recording session. The only add-on is that you're allowing another computer remote control. Mm-hmm. So that's an easy way to think of it.
It is. I like that. Well, cool. I think that's it. That's it. You did it. Thank you very much for that walkthrough and that breakdown. If there are any, other questions out there, please feel free to drop them in the comments right now. We'll see if we can cover those in our last couple of minutes here. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and tell you about a few of our Facebook groups. If you're not a part of our Live Sound Facebook groups, you definitely should be. We've got the TouchMix user Facebook group, which is a an ever-growing community of Facebook users and Facebook owners, and some just general, mixing aficionados and audio aficionados that might not, own or use a TouchMix, but are interested anyway. And a lot of really, really cool information, a lot of really good user interaction and conversations happening over there. And Golden and myself participate quite often, as well as our awesome AET support team. Those guys are on there all the time. So that's a fantastic forum to be a part of. We've also got what is it called? The Church Sound?
It's called Church Sound Training.
There you go, Church Sound Training. And that one is moderated by you, right, Golden?
Yeah.
That's kind of
I actually created it for Church Sound volunteers to learn, but the concepts are universal.
The concepts it's just audio training. It's geared maybe towards the house of worship volunteer, but the knowledge is all the same. So
new users for any application would benefit from it. And it's not just how to run a QSC TouchMix. These parameters that I teach about and sound concepts apply to any console you step up to, apply to any acoustic space you get up to, any speaker. They're just audio concepts that you need to be aware of when you're
general audio concepts. So a lot of cool information over there. Definitely check it out. Whether you're a church volunteer or not, it's good stuff. So
the more you add to your audio knowledge, the better you can run your QSC gear.
Exactly.
The better you can make it sound. Yep.
That's right. And that's what we're about. Getting a good sound.
Yep.
Well, I'm not seeing any activity in the comments, so I think people out there are pretty good, satisfied. I think we can call this one a wrap.
All right.
Thank you very much, Golden. Super awesome topic.
You're welcome.
Hope that was helpful to you guys out there. And we'll see you guys next week. Tune back in.
Have an awesome day.
Have a fun topic for you.